Welcome back to another episode with
the Modern Framily.
My name is Jenna, and I'm super excited for this episode because it's just with the ladies. So we're going to talk about all things expectations, fails, things you would have told your younger self, things you're learning right now. But I would love to just jump in and kind of just talk about, since the husbands aren't here, what is something that your husband does that is a huge pet peeve of yours?
I can go first. It's something that's like lighthearted and silly, but my husband asks for a back scratch minimum 17 times a day, but he doesn't just ask for it. He comes and stands. Like I can be cooking dinner and he'll come and stand right in front of me, like almost block what I'm doing, and he'll just be like mid-back. He's like to the point now he doesn't even say like, "Hey, can you stretch my back?" He's
You're like, wait,
find this section. He's like, "Yeah, upper right."
You're like, "Wait, am I a massage therapist?"
And then,
like, what's going on?
Like 10 minutes again, it happens. Brooke witnessed it earlier. I'm like, you see what I'm saying?
That is funny. That is funny. Anybody else?
Mine is Adrian likes to sit on the toilet and trim his toenails and then not clean the toenail clippings up. So then I go to pee and there are toenail clippings on the floor.
That is diabolical. Oh my gosh.
So then he started doing it over the bathtub instead, but I'm the only one who takes a bath. It's like, my God.
You're taking a bath, you see something floating, you're like, wait, what?
Sorry for throwing him under the bus, but like it's the reality of our household right now.
That is funny. I would say for me, I'm very appreciative when my husband wants to clean, for sure. But I also call him like a shuffler because sometimes I will open a closet and there'll be random stuff in here that I'm like, okay, this one doesn't belong in here too. I'm like, is this what you were doing with cleaning? You're just like shoving it in a random closet or something. I'm like, at that point, I'll just take care of it, because you're kind of just putting things under the bed in the like closet. I'm like, okay, this is not where it goes.
That sounds like my toddlers. That's how they clean too. Okay, I would say for us, Van, like in the beginning of our marriage, was so sweet with helping with cleaning and laundry. And then I found all the towels in with the clothes and I was like, oh, no. I will do the laundry from now on and you can just take out the trash. And he likes to cook, so he'll cook. But yeah.
Hold on. Are you not supposed to wash your towels with clothes?
Is this my wife fail?
Is this the thing I tell my future self? You're not supposed to?
Well, I don't know if that's just like a pet peeve or a personal thing, but
she's like, if you're a normal person,
that was one of my pet peeves, and sometimes
I think I learned that like in the
helping.
last year. I think they say like it's not good for your regular clothes.
Yeah,
like the friction or something.
How many of you guys
And the fuzzies.
separate your clothes like actually by like colors? Or are you just
Brogan
like, hey, throw
needs
it
a
all
whole
in?
episode.
Yeah,
on
I was
how
going to
she
say,
does her
let's
laundry.
not get Brogan into this.
No, I gotta throw it all in, and it's one and done.
Yeah, so for you, it's like, who cares about the towels?
All the type A people are cringing, and the type B girls are like, we just got to get it done.
We're lucky
Yeah.
we do our laundry sometimes.
I divide mine by kid, and whatever goes in with each kid's it's the Lord's problem. It's not mine.
If I arrive to Brogan's house and it's like just me, it's not a big group of people, there's literally a piece of clothing on every furniture in the house.
I've literally never air dried a piece
surface.
of clothing in my entire life.
I don't air dry either.
I've
air
never
dries-
done that.
Yeah,
That's
I
why all
air
my
dry
clothes
about 90% of our
They
clothing.
shrink.
I don't air dry my clothes, but my husband JD is very specific about every piece of clothing he owns to be air dried. So on laundry washing days, it looks like a little laundry mat at my house. But so along those lines, as far as like, just like honestly, like low key, like roasting our husbands, kind of roasting ourselves. What did you like not know like about birth? Or like what's something crazy that you experienced postpartum, or like something that you wish you would have just told like your younger self, like, hey, expect this because it's coming. Whether it's birth, marriage, all the things.
I'm just going to say, and this will be pretty quick. Well, you were younger than me when you had Stone.
Mm-hmm.
I was 24 when I got pregnant with Charlotte. I was 25. I felt like a baby. I honestly still feel like a baby. I'm like, how did I get trusted with these children? But I was extra baby when I had Charlotte. And first of all, like, everyone always raves about like the baby and postpartum and like what to expect after that. But we've talked about this. No one really tells you like what you're going to be like afterwards, but also having to take care of another human. Anyways, I packed my only undergarment that I packed to the hospital to wear home from the hospital.
For your firstborn.
Yeah, was a lace thong. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say thong.
Like put it over your diaper.
Yeah.
Over your
But I quickly realized that was not going to suffice. But my thought process, I remember packing it and being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to not be pregnant. I'm going to be so cute in this. And I like put it in my luggage. And
He's like, I don't want to be here.
I learned so quickly like that was not going to cut it. So I just ended up wearing the hospital diapers.
Thong to diaper.
Thong to diaper. That's funny.
I'll go next. I feel like I'm the youngest, or not the youngest, the most recent one who just entered motherhood. So I feel like everybody here besides Sid has already been a parent, and I was the one who stepped into motherhood for the first time in August of last year. And I had pushed for 2 hours, and I didn't realize I don't know what. that pushing that long just really makes everything much more smooth. And I did not realize like I like couldn't pee. Like I was in like so much pain. And I remember, so in our community group, there's a separate text message group for just moms. And so I texted them and I was like, why did no one tell me how this was going to be like? And I think Brogan was literally like, we really wanted to tell you, but we also didn't want to scare you. And so I was literally like, everything was just like so new, so foreign. Like, I mean, you said mostly everyone here has had more than one kid. And I'm literally like, oh my gosh, nobody tells you these things.
No, along those same lines, I'm like, not to be like graphic, but I'm like, they make you go to the bathroom 2 days after you give birth, and you're like,
you can't
if not,
leave.
you got to go back to the hospital. And I'm like, no one told me that, because it is literally absolutely, especially if you push 2 hours plus or whatever the time is, it's like, oh my gosh,
It's terrifying.
it's horrible.
And if you have a C-section, you literally they stitch you back up like 9 layers deep. And then you get to lay in a hospital bed basically until you can feel your feet. And they're like, okay, time to take a lap. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, get out of bed. And they're like, yeah, just get walking around. I'm like, like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I maybe just watched like too many movies or TV shows, but I expected like the full like hospital staff to be in there, at least for my experience. I was like, okay, it was literally just me, my husband, my mom, and a nurse. And I was like, so when's the doctor coming in? And like, where's everybody at? I remember my husband asked like, so are people gonna like come and show up? And she's like, nope, just me for now. And I like basically like gave birth with the nurse practically. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that you basically just only give birth with a nurse. I'm like, shout out to nurses. I mean, we have one right here.
I can't say that there was a lot I didn't know what to expect. I've worked as a labor delivery nurse for years before having my own. So I worked on the floor with my doctor and I picked my nurse and everything. Might have helped the experience. But then again, I don't know, the more you know.
Is there anything you didn't really know about marriage going into it that you were like, dang, I did not know this about living with the boy?
Actually, the only thing I'll say that I did not know postpartum, breastfeeding hurts way more than anybody's going to tell you. And I don't think it's everybody, but I thought my body got lit on fire.
Yeah. It hurts so bad.
It's the shock I did.
Especially the first time. You're literally just like,
I literally like spasmed. Like, I'm like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
I will also say, your body just goes through a lot of changes. Being pregnant and then having the baby, and then your body still ain't the same. And then you start having night sweats, and then you start smelling.
You also have contractions still after you
that was the thing that I was so shocked by. No one told me that. But like after you deliver, it's awful. Like after you deliver, you have contractions and they push on your stomach to like make your uterus contract back, right? Check my facts on that.
Well, even breastfeeding.
And it hurts so bad. Oh my gosh.
Even breastfeeding.
Yes.
Like the first few days you have more contractions. It's wild. But yeah, just things that you
They get worse with each kid, by the way. So they say.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
It's unfortunately true.
Clearly, it hasn't stopped us.
I remember I had 2 natural births, and I just remember at the end they were like, "Okay, we're just gonna make sure you're okay." And I was like, "Don't stop touching me. I'm so tired of being in pain."
Yeah.
Also, Jessie is a freaking beast. Her steps in. Oh my gosh, she delivered her baby boy in her bathtub.
How much did he weigh? Wasn't he a big boy?
9 pounds and
9
2 ounces.
Literally.
How many ounces?
9 pounds, 2 ounces.
Oh my gosh.
What? Oh, no, Sutton was 9 pounds. I'm saying, but I had the drugs. I had all the drugs. I literally can't fathom. I don't even
At
want
the
to think
end
about
of it,
it.
I was like, if I ever get pregnant again, I want the drugs. I
Yeah.
want the epidural.
I know. So I do feel like it's truly just like a learning process. I know we like joke around like this is things I didn't really know, but it's like at the same time, there's so many parts that you just have to like experience. You just learn as you go and just like experience as you go. And that's the same thing like with marriage as well. It's like, it's kind of just like people can warn you and tell you, but at the same time, it's like a lot of it you just have to experience for yourself.
And it's so individualized. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, every story's different.
I think too, it's just part of the growth process. Like Blaze, for example, was the first one of all of us to have a baby, and we're sisters. And that was the first thing that she had done before me. And so she got to kind of blaze the trail and go before me and learn things along the way. But there's such a process of surrender and sacrifice. But I remember talking to Lo whenever she was about to have her baby, and she had a full-on color-coded binder.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. Your apartment.
About her birth plan.
Does that say anything?
Going into the hospital, and I had to very sweetly tell her, I love you dearly. But I'm going to tell you right now, you can go in with absolutely no
Rip it to
expectations. Like you just can't. And on one hand, it's funny and lighthearted, but on the other hand, it truly is one of those moments where no matter how much you plan it, you have to go in open-handed because it's going to look different than what you anticipated because you have no control. And that's kind of the first part. Like you enter into motherhood, and that's one of the very first lessons that you learn quickly is you just can't control it.
I want to add one thing that I'm taking into my next experience with labor, or at least that I'm going to try. Something that was said to me, it wasn't even about birth or anything, but I was just experiencing a lot of anxiety like a couple of years ago. And one of my dear friends that I just love, who's so good with words, she gave me this like analogy of white knuckling, and how like when a woman goes into labor and she's like, no matter how much she wants to like white knuckle it, like her body's still going to do what it needs to do. Like you can essentially be unconscious and your body will still deliver a baby, which I think is really cool. And I think it allows you to just like trust the process and surrender because your body's going to do what it has to do, no matter how much you're like trying to force it. And so like, I think just like the idea of not having the white knuckles and just like releasing your grip and surrendering that, is something that's like, I'm going to for sure take with me to when I have this third baby.
Yes, for sure.
But it's kind of consistent, like kind of what you were saying, like it's that, but it's like the theme of motherhood, at least from what I've seen so far. It's like, it starts with that, but like really the whole thing is like, you just have to hold it with an open hand because you know that very recently. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, for sure. I think along just like, as we're talking about like, just like learning as we go, expectations, like life looking different. Like I'm sure we could all go around and say experiences from the past of like everything we've learned as far as like life not looking how we thought. But I'm sure there's a lot like we're even going through right now that's like, okay, in a lot of different areas, this is actually not what I thought. And it could be good or bad. It doesn't necessarily need to be bad. It could be good as well. And so I would love for some of us to go around and just kind of say like, okay, in your current season for you personally, as we've talked about like learning and like expectations and all of that, like what would you say is like the best and hardest thing that you are kind of walking through right now or learning right now?
I can start. I think just even the word expectation holds so much weight, and something that Aaron and I learned during our premarital counseling was the difference between expectations and desires. And I think that can be applied really in any part of life, any responsibility we have, any relationships we have. But when you go into something having an expectation, you are saying that this thing needs to happen in order for me to have happiness or fulfillment. But when you desire something, you're holding it, with an open hand and saying, this is something that I really want, but if it doesn't happen, that's okay. Yeah. And that's something that I've applied to my marriage a lot, but mostly to motherhood. That's something that I'm learning even for my kids, that I didn't realize I would have such high expectations for them. And it's funny when you're a mom, I know every mom in here can relate. You say, my kids are never going to do this thing, or they're never going to be this way, or my kids are going to be the most obedient with the best manners and be so pleasant to be around.
That's a lot of times this like same thing God uses, this thing you say never.
Yeah, exactly. Or you think they're going to be so much like you and your husband. Well, I'm going to be the first to tell you that's not the truth. Yeah. My husband and I are both very laid back, and our kids are not. Our youngest is, but our older two are not. And so that expectations versus desire thing is something that I'm still working through. Like, I do have high expectations of them, but I've turned that into a desire of okay, like I'm holding this open-handed. My expectations of you, but I know going into it, you're not perfect. You're going to fail. I'm not perfect. I'm going to fail. And that is a really hard lesson to learn, to hold your kids loosely, because you only have so much control. And all you can do is try to train them in the best way that you can. And ultimately, God made them exactly how they're supposed to be. Yeah. And you have to trust that He chose them for you, and He chose you for them. And that's not a mistake. Yeah. No matter how hard your children are. So I think that's a beautiful thing I'm learning, but also a really hard thing too.
Yeah. I think for me in this season, it's been interesting because my husband and I have been married for 4 years now, and we started trying to conceive in January. And it's been interesting in this season of like being surrounded by so many phenomenal moms, and like getting to watch the way that they parent and getting to be a part of that process. Like, I'm constantly at the park with people and their kids, and like our community group, like when we're together, all the kids are being put down at the same time in the house. Like, we're constantly around each other. And I think one thing that has been an interesting thing for me to experience is like, I've always been very open-handed with the idea of becoming a mom. And I was like, okay, yeah, like we're going to start trying and it's going to be great and whatever. And then like each month that goes by that we're not pregnant, it was like, oh, I didn't expect to be upset. And like, I knew that it was going to take time, but I think at each time that it happened, I was like, oh, this kind of like hurts. This like isn't fun. And then I think too, I've never been a jealous person, but I've like started being jealous about my friends, and like not in an ugly way. It's a way that I can like definitely check myself, but like realizing that jealousy and desire can coexist with joy and happiness and excitement and like all of those different things has just been interesting to walk through in this season. And like realizing desire does a lot to your heart. And so it's just been interesting walking through that.
Yeah. And thanks for being honest with that. I feel like that is like can be a lot of people's stories. And I mean, I told you this earlier, but just like shout out to you guys, especially for like wanting something really badly. And like in this situation, it's kids, but I'm sure we can all go around and say like when we really wanted something or desired something, and being around somebody that has that can be really hard and hurtful. And the way that you still show up for everyone's kids.
Totally.
And they all love you. And like, even though that's something that you desire, you don't keep that from you being a part of this group and super involved in loving on kids. So I want to shout you out for that too.
Thank you for that. The thing I do get to say though is I get to sleep in on my Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that you guys don't.
That is so true.
Cheers that.
But that first Saturday with the crying baby, I'm going to be texting all of you and I'm like, this is what I wanted. Just remind me. This is what I was asking for all along.
We will.
I think something that the Lord is teaching me in this season. So we could talk through the whole backstory, but essentially, my sister and I owned a company for a while, and we felt like the Lord had called us to close the doors on that. Didn't make a lot of sense looking at it from a high level perspective. And many things have played out in that. But as we ventured into this next season, I think that part of me was believing that the Lord is taking one thing and asking me to surrender it with the idea that he was going to replace it with something else. And as of right now, that hasn't happened yet. And to walk forward and know that there is purpose and intention in the, I wouldn't even say waiting, because I'm trying to process the idea that like, I'm not promised another step.
Yeah.
But something that we say in our home a lot, and y'all have heard me say this a lot, is find the good. And I'm learning, and God's continually teaching me like what is in front of me is the greatest gift I could ever have. And to find, and I know like Jenna, you and I have talked about this a lot, like finding the extraordinary and the mundane, and something that you can so easily bypass and look at as just your normal day-to-day activities. And I saw something recently, like many of us look to, what are we going to do with our life? And that might not be the most monumental thing. It might be who you raise. So, and if that is the mark of my life, then that is so good.
Yeah.
And God's continually to teach me that, because I'm wired in a way that I want to produce and achieve and have these like, it's like you want to see the fruit of your labor, right? And when you're parenting, it doesn't always feel like you can see that right away. And it's like you invest and you pour into and you sow, and you're like, but where's the harvest? And Lord willing, we're going to see that one day. Like what we're putting in, we're going to see it come to fruition at some point. And it's so encouraging to be surrounded by women that have such, high ambition to do things outside of this motherhood gig, but also like, no, ultimately there's like in this season, nothing greater that we could be doing. And I think whether you are a mom or wife or a mom to be, hopefully, or working from home or staying at home, like what you have in front of you is purposeful and intentional. And while it is there, give it everything you have. And so, I think that's kind of like something that the Lord continues to teach me.
Yeah, I would say like very similar to you. I know we've talked about this, but just like I feel like seasons of my life were really marked by like achievement and goals. And now that is not necessarily where I'm at. And I want to say like I'm very grateful right now. Like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I know that's not everybody's story. That's not even everybody's circumstance. So I am very grateful, and I don't want to sound ungrateful in any way, but I would think that God has used this season a lot to change me while being a stay-at-home mom, to realize how I was measuring my life and how I was measuring my days. And it seems more and more like just so much through either like hearing about tragedies or just all these things, I'm realizing just like how short life is, and realizing that, I'm a Christian, we're Christians, we believe in God, and that one day I'm going to stand before God, and, he's not going to ask me about like what I could have done or like desires in my heart that I wanted to do, although they might be given by him and they might be good. They might be to help other people and all those things. He's going to ask me, what did you do with what was given to you? And what was given to me was my children. And right now is to raise, my daughter at home and soon to be my son. And that's how I need to measure my life and measure my days, knowing that when I stand before God, I want him to say, well done, good and faithful servant. And that is, not going to be what I think I should have had or should have done. It's going to be with what I was entrusted with, which is a huge word within itself. So
I want to say something after, because I'm wired similarly to you. I think what was the question, like, what would you tell your younger self, or was that asked?
Yeah,
was that part of the question?
Yeah, we said that earlier, but even now, like, just like with the current season you're in,
that's right. I'm just sort of reflecting, and like, basically, I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, like the early mother that I was, like to one, like, you're going to love this so much one day, because I feel like, kind of to what we were talking about, like, I think I just fought it for so long. And like, I thought like, okay, I know I'm a mom, but it's because like I have to do that. I have to be that in my 20s. Like I have to, give my husband children. I have to raise a family. It was just like a checklist type thing. But I also have like my life, and like I need to go do all these things, and I have all these like milestones that I want to hit. And so I was almost like I found myself like just trying to get by the day, or like, how do I just survive the day and like get to bedtime? And like, I never pictured myself with 4 children, being a stay-at-home mom, and like loving it, like being delighted in it. Like I told y'all that the other day. I was like, I've had like such a heart change like towards motherhood, and what I've seen is like, I'm in love with it. And I wish I could go back and tell myself that like, it's not always going to be like, I just wished it away for a long time. And I am finding myself now with my 4th, 17 days old. I'm just like begging God to slow time, because I'm like, I love this so much, and I already miss it. I'm already like grieving it. And I'm like, I just wish I didn't focus on all that. Like, I wish I just looked at what I had for Britt's going to come in soon and have a 5th. I'm not having a 5th, but I'm like, I don't know. I just.
Britt's like, yes, she's open to
I'm like,
it.
Don't listen to this again.
A year later, where she's like, guess what?
No, I
Season
need it
2.
this time, guys. I am done.
I really like that perspective of like focusing on what you gain in that moment, because since moving here and not practicing as a nurse right now, like it took a lot for me to admit that I'm a stay-at-home mom now, because there's like a stereotype about it almost. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to say that, like, to me, I lost my purpose in a way. We'll put it on pause. But it is so true. Like, but what both of y'all said, like, I mean, now this is our purpose. Like, what is in front of us is where our focus is. Be where your feet are. And like, it recenters you in a different way, to where, I'm maybe not a caretaker in the hospital. I'm a caretaker in my home now. And like, that's my most important role. And like, that's where I should be.
I'll just add to that. I feel like there's a common theme among all of us, and that we just learn so much. And the older we get, and especially as you have kids and you surrender control. And I feel like the hardest thing for me becoming a mom in the first place was like this selfish desire that I had. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it comes out in ways that you don't expect. Like, you just get frustrated at the little moments that you don't get to just take a shower in peace, or like, like you can't put your kid down sometimes. Like, my second was so hard to put down. She literally just wanted me to hold her the entire time, and I got so frustrated at times, because I was like, I just can't do the things that I want to do without, holding her, whatever. But like, the more time that passes, you just like cherish those small moments, and you cherish that like God gave you this little baby to like hold and protect and like get to like keep close. And it changes that perspective so much about like what you were saying, Lauren. But like, I think the longer I become a mom, I'm not any less selfish, but I have like been able to take those moments and recognize like myself and my sin, and see what's in front of me, and be able to, like accept and like delight and live in those moments.
it makes sense why grandparents are always like, hey, it's not a big deal. You know, like they wake up in the middle of the night and want to snuggle you in bed, let them. You know, I feel like the longer you're a mom, you realize like, okay, these moments are the moments that seem hard and inconvenient are actually sacred moments that we are going to look back and wish for one day. And not everything is such a big deal. You know, like we're not ruining our kids by, you know, snuggling them a little bit more, rocking them to sleep or holding them. I think that's something that I'm learning also as a mom. Like maybe there's something to like what these grandparents are saying. Like it's not just because they're old and they've been removed. It's that they have perspective, that they've been through that and they miss it and they know you will too.
And I really want to speak to Brogan on this because I feel like she's really good at specifically like hearing, because Lauren and I specifically, we have 4 little kids, and I know all of us have really little kids. But it's so, especially when you're a stay-at-home mom, like sometimes every day looks like Groundhog's Day, like feels like Groundhog's Day, like you're just doing the same thing over and over. And a lot of times it's really hard to be like, I'm going to miss this one day. And I used to get so mad when people would be like, you're going to miss it. And I'm like, promise? Like, yeah. And I feel like Brogan is always really, really good at like feeding us perspective of like, it's going to go by so fast. And like, don't let current now miss what future now is going to like really, really miss. You know, does that make sense? But I feel like in all of that, I've had a really big heart change in the last like few months. And I just felt like the Lord was telling me to slow down. And we kind of talked about this at girls' night the other night, but like my oldest is 5 and I have twins and they're, I guess, a little over 2.5. So I've got 4 kids in a really small window. And I felt like Will and I have just been like straight survive, like get from Monday to Sunday with everyone's minimal blood loss and minimal needs of therapy in the future. We succeeded sometimes. So it's just like, I've just been in this rush, in this hurry of like, you know, when we just kept saying like, when they're out of diapers, we're going to, the next part of our life's going to be in, or like when they sleep past 5 o'clock, we're going to be like so excited, you know, or, you know, this and that. So we're always just like wishing for the future. And all of a sudden we like turned around. We're like, man, we had literally infant twins 2 days ago. And now they're going to be 3 in a few months. And it's like, I feel like we wished this away. And now I'm like, in 10 years, I'm going to look back and be like, man, why did I wish that away? Like we have such a unique situation. And I feel like the Lord like really checked me on that a few months ago. And I say the Lord, I'm like, the Lord used you guys as instruments, because literally that conversation we had a couple months about screen time changed my entire life. And I've kind of like, that snowballed. So that's another reason like why the Lord puts community in you to like make you better and to have group chats, and then someone send you a side text and be like, hey, I feel like I need to lovingly check you on this. And then just having a heart to like receive that and take it and run with it. But I feel like the Lord has just been like, simplify, like make things simpler, and slow down. And so Will and I had a conversation a few months ago, like we're going to joyfully into the season of no. Like we're going to say no joyfully. And we're going to spend family time. Like we have always been the people who are like, we're going to say yes to this, say yes to that. We're going to go this, like Monday through Friday, we're booked. We're all over the place. And our kids are just going to get drug around with us. And it just got to where it was like, life was flying by. And so now we are in the season of no. And it's like, slow down, like enjoy the here and now, like enjoy where your feet are at, enjoy where like we get to be at home, because my husband works from home as well. So like we get to be at home. And we get to be all 6 of us at home. No one gets to say that. And like, that is such a gift. And like, we should treat that as a gift, because even though I'm tired, even though I'm stressed, even though my kids are feral, like me in 20 years, I'm going to wish that I slowed down and like loved the season that I was in. So I would also say, if you're someone who's like, feels like life's flying by, like simplify.
I'm going to add that, like, not only do we have some stay-at-home moms in this group, we have quite a few moms that work in the workplace and then also work from home. And so that's a whole other element that I'm sure like a lot of y'all can speak to as you are a mom and a wife and just all the things that's just again, another element when working is involved too.
For me, I'm kind of out of this season currently that everyone's in, just because I did have my oldest before everybody else. So I got pregnant at 22, right out of college. I didn't have any friends with kids. My sister didn't have a kid yet. So I had nobody to like relate to, talk to, anything. And then my husband also left for training camp in Arizona when, our son was 4 days old. And so I was kind of doing it all alone. And now I'm 32 and I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and I'm pregnant with our third, which I never thought that I would get pregnant again. But I'm just like so grateful because now that I'm out of that season, like, yes, of course, like 9 and 6-year-old boys are still really tough. And our second is like 3 kids in one, but I am out of I'm out of that season where they're at school all day and you really do like wish it away. And once it's there and you send them off to kindergarten, I mean now it's 3rd grade in kindergarten and they're literally at school Monday through Friday all day. And I'm like trying to figure out who I am again. And it's all you do is wish that they were with you again. And it's this weird like balance of like how, when they were 2 and 3, I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't wait till they just like go to school for a little while so that I can like have some time to myself. And now it's all I want. And so now that I have this opportunity to do it all over again and have this like fresh new perspective of like truly how fast it goes, like people say that it goes fast and y'all are all saying it goes fast, but like I have literally lived it and I'm like, holy cow. Like I was pregnant almost 10 years. I was pregnant 10 years ago. Like time really does go by so fast. And I feel like we're either always wanting to fast forward or rewind. And we can't just like ever just be present and be still and be where our feet are. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, I just want my kids to be at this season of life where I miss that season of life. And, it's just so interesting how we just can't just like be where we are. But anyway, I just wanted to add to that because I am out of that season now. I'm about to enter into it again, but I have this fresh new perspective of like, man, it's so hard. The days are long and the nights are so long, but like I am going to try my best to do it so joyfully and with much more patience and grace and like excitement that it's here. And I know that it's just a season. Like it's not going to be this hard forever.
Yeah. So excited for you.
Thanks. Yeah. And I'm having a girl. So like,
yes. I truly do think it's like, just like life, motherhood is just like a circle of, again, like we were touching on learning, relearning, because now you're learning in a different way. And then you're getting to also like help friends who are experiencing things you already learned and all that. But what would you guys say to the girl that I would say, like, as we talk, like, I think it's something that is so interesting. I think about like with women is whether you're a wife, you're a mom, it is like really, there's this battle. It's really hard not to find your identity in one of those titles. And what would you guys say to the person that like really struggles with their identity? Like, cause that is part of the many hats that we wear. Like that is an aspect of our identity for sure. But that isn't just all of who we are. So I do feel like whether it's empty nesting or kids going to school, it's like there's aspects that it's like, okay, wait, who am I? What do I like to do?
I'll let them know when I figure it out.
Yeah.
It's literally me right now. I'm like, okay, I'm a mom of 2 staying at home. Like, who am I now? Because do I even like the same things I used to like before kids? Like, men get their, midlife crisis or whatever at 50. But I feel like women get it, like after motherhood, we get their identity crisis.
Yeah.
Of like, will we be friends with the same people? Do we like the same hobbies? What do we have? Hobbies?
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing that I wish I would have told myself, and that I feel like I'm still working on it, is like, it is okay and it is good to pour into yourself. And like, it is good to spend time away from the house and without your kids and with your friends and take the girls trip. Like, pouring into yourself is so necessary.
Also add to that goes for just being married and for being mom.
100%. Yeah.
I know that like I still struggle with the mom guilt. I think anyone does, no matter how much like personal freedom you've given yourself. But like, do stuff outside of your house. Like, do stuff that you enjoy. Figure out what you enjoy. Without guilt. And it is important to go on the girls trip or call the friend to come hang out with your kids so you can go get your nails done, like, or get your hair done. Like, it is important to pour into your own cup.
Yeah. I think that's really good. Aaron and I actually just had this conversation the other day because I naturally am just a caretaker and don't know how to take care of myself well. And it builds up and builds up and builds up to a point where I'm like, who am I? Like, what do I like to do? Or
she had a Britney Spears moment this week. She almost shaved her head. No, we weren't sure she was going to show up with her
I really did
hair.
it. I really did it. But it boiled down to, I hadn't made that a priority to take care of myself and to do things that fill my cup. And Aaron asked me, okay, like, practically, how can I help you? What does that look like? And like, I need quality time with my friends. I need to be able to go get my hair done more than once every other year, or go on a run, or go sit at the coffee shop and not have to work, but just like be and read a book. And so that way, when I am at home, I'm not questioning like, or longing to be doing something else. Like, if I have filled my cup in those other ways, when I'm home, like, I am where my feet are and I'm able to play with my kids and not have something else in my mind or just feel drained. Like my battery is just done by the end of the day because I have done things throughout the week to take care of myself. And so I think communication with your spouse is a huge part of that. And because the reality is, like, they're either going to have to help you with that, or you're going to have to, send them to school or have a babysitter. There's got to be a plan in place because it doesn't just happen for a mom.
Yeah. No, that's so good.
I think too that kind of what Blaze was touching on earlier is that eventually, like, the role that we have is to let them go. And I know we've talked about, like, can you tell I'm the emotional one of the group? I'm the one that's always, talking about like how I have a tendency to grieve the moment before it's past. And that's something that the Lord is continually like working on me in, is just be present, be grateful, find the good. But also, like, this is our job. Our job is eventually to let them go and to send them out into the world and hand them over and trust that everything we poured into them has built this foundation that will last them. But when that happens, obviously we're still a mom, but like, we have to have a foundation that extends the lifespan of till the day we go home. And it, for us as believers in Jesus, that is finding our true identity in the Lord and diving into a relationship with Him. And the thing is too, when you invest in that, it pours out of you in every other hat that you wear. And so that ultimately has to be number one. And that's, that's what we fight for and what we believe, because that's the life that we live and we've sought to pursue. But learning that, like, it goes God, then like daughter of the Lord, then wife, then mom. And that one, I will also
hot
say,
take,
is hard. That one is hard. And so even like, then your kids go off and now you're still a mom, but like it's you and your husband in the home. And how have I poured into being a wife? And how have I continued to foster that relationship? And so ultimately, to answer your question, where do you find your identity outside of all of these hats? Those are just labels. Those are titles. They can also be taken away. And like, I mean, whether you're a business owner, even as a mom, like, you will always be a mom. But I mean, Jean can tell you firsthand, you have to hold things loosely. And things can be strict. And when that happens, what are you left with? You still have Jesus.
That's right.
And you still have that identity no matter what. And so ultimately, like, that has to be the foundation. So,
Yeah, I was reminded of that. So, I've been a teacher for the past 10 years and felt like that was my identity. So like boldly, I felt like when I said that I was a teacher, there was like some understood, like character traits that people just could then place on me. They were like, okay, so like you're compassionate, you're like, you work really hard. You like, there were just different things that they like. I also felt like there was an element of trust that people just knew that I would be like trustworthy with their kids or all of these things. And so, when I left the classroom in May, and granted, I'm still in education and working with students, but in a very different capacity. But when I left the identity of like teacher, I had such a hard time with that. And I was like, well, if I'm not a teacher, like who am I?
Yeah.
Like I remember sitting with Adrienne and I like was bawling and I was like, if I'm not a teacher, like people won't know that I'm like, I have a bubbly personality and that I like care for people really deeply and I'm really good with kids. And he like grabbed my face and he was like, they will know that within like 3 seconds of meeting you. Like just because you're not a teacher doesn't mean that those qualities don't still pertain to you. Yeah, so like even as you like with you guys as moms or like the character traits that you possess as a mother, as a business owner, as somebody in the workplace, as a friend, as a sister, like those are the identity traits that like God gave you specifically. Like he knew who you needed to be. He created you in the way that you needed to be created. And like, even though those hats might look different in different facets of life, like it's still who you are. And so like, it's more so like your identity is what your identity is, but then being able to apply that in different seasons and being able to like look to God and say, okay, so like, I know who you made me to be, but who did you make me to be in this situation? Or like, how are you going to use my identity to be portrayed to my friends or my family or like the people that I interact with at work? And like, just kind of being able to be open-handed with that and say like, okay, Lord, who did you pour into me to be in this season or in this situation? But I think even like Addie was saying, like also being able to be well rested and pour into yourself and like care for yourself so that the kind of haze of the world doesn't get in the way of the perception of who you are or your ability to have those truths spoken into you and not believe the lies that the world is trying to place on you of not doing enough or not being enough or not achieving enough or not like, there are just so many different ways that I think clouds our judgment of who we are as ourselves. And I think that's a big part of this community too, is I think anytime any single one of us has struggled with identity or like not seeing ourselves in the clear light, like we constantly are able to reflect that mirror back to each other of like, no, this is who you are. Like you are a daughter of God. You are a good friend. You are a great human. Like we're able to speak truth in identity to one another, which is a really beautiful thing about this group.
Which is super special. And if you don't have that, just having those like inner checks of like, okay, where am I at with just like how I view myself, as I view myself as a mother, I view myself as a wife, which I think is just, it's just a tough balance a lot of times. And it sounds cliche, but it's being like asking God, like, can you show me who I am? Can you remind me of the things that I'm good at or who you created me to be? Like, I fully believe he will if that is where you find yourself today. And so as we wrap up, I hope you know that like this, we don't have this all figured out. We're clearly still like in the thick of a lot of these things and like learning and relearning as wives and as mothers. And that's going to probably continue for the rest of our lives. And so hope you got some encouragement as we just shared from our hearts today. And we hope that you tune in next week.
Bye. Bye.